Hello, welcome back to Tony Dock Station. Today we're going to do one of these in one of these. So welcome to Tony Dock Station. As you may have seen from one of my last videos, I purchased a sound decoder for my 37 from Warley 2018. If you haven't seen those videos, I put two videos up about day one and day two. Day one's about everything I bought, and day two is actually a bit about the layout itself. I spoke about this decoder in that video, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but basically it's a 21 pin decoder and it's a sound decoder. And you may think, where's the speaker? Well, the speaker is separate, and I'm going to explain why. It's not physically attached to this. So this video is going to be specific to the Bachmann 37. I can't really do anything other than that. I've got a Bachmann 37, so I'm sure the lessons will translate into other 37s. But so this is going to go on to the Bachmann 37 specifically. My product code is 32-387, my Ralph rate 37. So the sound decoder is a multi-sound one. It actually has multiple sound files on it, but specifically I'm going to be using the 37. I'm also using the speaker is a Zemo one. It's not in the package at the moment because it's below me on the soldering stand, which I'm going to explain. So let's get cracking into it. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need to do is get your 37, and because this is pre-weathered and obviously I don't want to damage it, I've got it in like a sort of foam cradle just to protect it. And then look at your instructions as to how you release the body shell. My one, if I look at my instructions, it says that the body fixing screws are underneath and in the middle, and obviously it tells you a bit about lubrication and where the buffer beam detail goes as well. So I've already taken my screws out, so you can see I've put two at the front, which are two there underneath the buffer beams, and again on the rear, and the two in the middle. And I've just put them there so I remember which way they go, but keep them somewhere safe. And then the body shell will literally just lift off like that, and then keep that somewhere safe so it doesn't get damaged, and will reveal your 37 inner workings. Now this is obviously not the most modern, but one of the modern Bachmanns. So the decoder, which is the original one here, which is a Bachmann one, sits on there, and then we come down to the actual speaker, which is here. And again, I've done half just to sort of show you how it works. So you've got the two speaker inputs on either side, and you again flux these tabs, a bit of solder on, and cut a bit of wire. Now for this, I'm using 0.01 18 strands, so 18/0.1 wire. Quite thin and small, but it's going to be good enough for sort of the speaker. And then the other end of that wire's got just a little bit of solder on the end there, and then that will go on to the solder tab. So we're going to do the other one and get cracking. So what I've done here is just cut a small strand of wire and trim the ends off, and then we're just going to twist the ends just to stop them fraying. And we're going to get a little bit of flux. Just put a bit of flux on the end here. I apologise if some of this is coming out of shot. I'm sort of struggling to see at the same time. Now make sure your tip of your soldering iron is nice and clean, and then it's just a case of, again, I'm trying to do this as best as you can see, but just bit of solder on the end there. It doesn't have to be a lot. Pull this out. Maybe you can't focus on that, I'm sorry, but just a little bit of solder, and we'll do the same again for the other side. Again, this is nothing complex at all. If you've got a fear of soldering, you really don't need one for something like this. It is very, very small, and as long as you do sort of these bits while it's not connected to the circuit board, you're not going to damage anything. The best you're going to do is damage a bit of wire, which is going to be very difficult to do anyway, but even if you do that, just cut another bit of wire and practice again. When you're happy with that, you have two nice clean edge solders. I've got little bubbles on the end, and then what that's going to do is I'm going to bring this solder onto this one here. So I've got two bits of solder, and all I've got to do is just put a bit of heat on, and then the two bits of solder will merge together. And it might take a little bit longer to do the two bits separately, but you will have a better connection. So just put a little bit of heat in there, and they go melt together. Take that off, let it cool, and there we go, all done. Hopefully you can see that. So you should be left with just two strand bits of wire there, which will go onto either side of the circuit board, and then that speaker there. Okay, so I've done all the soldering, and now it's trying to find somewhere to put the speaker. Now, space is at a premium in these. If you look at the body shell, inside, you've got these little brass tabs, and they are connecting to tabs on here for the lights. So, for example, if you look at this tab here, we know it's physically making contact with here. So the body shell will only have a small amount of space above those tabs, and you can't really see it, but it's not much thicker than my little finger. And the speaker is a bit thicker than that. So if I was to put the speaker in there, it's above the level of those tabs. So we know that it's going to protrude down and hit all these bits here, which is not good. So in the body shell here, if I just put this in, there's the fan assembly, which is this little bit here, which has cover for the little fan in there. If you pop the two screws out, that'll come out, and there's the fan in there. And in there we've got a bit of space. Now we also know above here there's a big recess. There's a bit of wire here, but it's there's a sort of recess in here. So what I'm planning on doing is I want to keep that fan. I'm going to cut, and if you can see I've sort of scored a line. I'm going to cut that out, and then the speaker will essentially sit in that area, and then it will sort of sit about here. So sound will also come out through the top, so we'll get good volume from the sound. And that does mean sacrificing a bit of this plastic here. And I've made sure to cut it this side of that screw hole, so that I can at least screw that bit of plastic back in. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I've cut that off there. I'm going to screw this back in, and we'll see how that looks. These screws are very small, that's why I'm using a magnetic screwdriver. I apologise if you can't really see this that well. Okay, so fan's back in, and we can't see through, but we have kept that side there, so that's the screw that I wanted to keep. But now I've got this area here for a speaker to sit in, and it's just about right, so that'll give us the best location for this speaker, I think. So what I'm going to do now is I've left obviously quite a length on these wires so that I can take the body shell on and off. So that's done there. speaker is in the future secured in. Otherwise it's too tight. What I've done to secure that in, which I might be able to see just a little bit of one tab there, is I've got these sticky tabs, which are made by 3M. They're designed to stick things to walls, so they're pretty strong. And then that's just held the speaker in there. What I'm going to do is obviously solder these speaker tabs now there, but just before I do that, I am going to just test fit this, just to make sure it does squeeze back in. Some of these wires may need adjusting, but as long as I get most of the way there. So yeah, it is most of the way there. There is just a small amount, maybe about 3 to 4 mil, which will just be adjusted by me moving some of these wires. Okay, so you join me back the next day. I made a bit of a mistake. These tabs are not for the speaker. So I've either cut it out to stop you from doing it by mistake, or I've left it in and made a note to say don't do it. But yeah, these are not for the speaker. I couldn't find a circuit board layout and just believed that those tabs were, because they said left and right. But I didn't look close enough to see that there's actually a circuit board output there for SPK, for speaker. So the speaker wires from there to there. So everything else is the same except where you solder it. So yes, solder your speaker to there. Again, doesn't matter which way round it goes on those, and I have checked that it doesn't actually matter which way round. But yes, that's where it gets soldered to for the speaker. So that's all done now. Wires obviously come from the speaker down onto here, and that is the circuit board there. So now I'm going to put it on the layout and get it all up and running. The position of the speaker will be exactly the same. If it's after this clip, then you'll see where I put the speaker, but otherwise it goes there. And going to screw it all back together, then I'll get it on the test track, and we'll give it a go and see what it sounds like. Okay, so I've got it all wired back together, screwed back together, body shell all on, and I've got it on the programming track. I've got it wired up to the DigiKeys command center just to give this a test, and we're going to power it up and see what we get. So, let's put the track live. Well, that's a good start. The lights are on at least, so we had a bit of noise coming from it. So, let's have a look at what power we've got here. Well, that seems to work. That's very loud. I apologise if that was very loud for you, but that deafened me. So, let's have a bit of movement, shall we? See if we can get that going. It is moving. So here you can see. Well, that does all seem to be working quite well. I think what I'm going to do is video yet, put it on the main track. At a later date, so I apologise if this is a bit confusing. But as you can see so far, I've got my Class 37 sitting here, which is exactly where it is there. So what I'm going to do is, just as a quick test, I'm just going to move it, and we'll see if we can get some different variation of noise out of it. So if I click this, drag it, and let's take it round to this block here and route it, and you can see some points are changing and the train is on its way. It's a bit of a rocket at the moment. As I said, I've still got some programming to do. and it's not quite exactly where I need it to be, so I haven't done all the speed calibrations and stuff, so it's a bit jumpy at the moment. Hopefully we'll get some movement there. I haven't set up any of the sound CVs in the program. I think that squeaking sound is the brake squirrel that's constantly on at the moment. But I'll bring it round, put it back on the programming track, and we'll have a look through some of the different sounds. Okay, so I've got it back on the programming track, and we'll power it up and we'll listen to the proper startup. I think that's the shutdown as well, where there's no power on it, but we'll have a look through some of the functions and some of the different sounds. So we've got the high tone horn and the low tone horn and the two-tone sequence. Now these particular tabs are not momentary, so you have to bear with me. So let's do the two-tone sequence. And then if we do the revs. It's the power down. I'll just play that break, the coupling and uncoupling again. F23 is the guard whistle coach door slam. That's those. There are quite a lot on here, but these are just the obvious ones I've got on here. And bear in mind that this has got, as I said, the different versions of sounds in there as well. It's got a lot of configuration to do, but overall I'm quite happy. One thing I'm going to do is the master volume. We'll just see what that's set at the moment, because there's quite a good bit of volume coming out of this. So it's CV128. So we'll have a quick look and see what CV128 is reading at. So 128. Bear in mind the maximum volume is 255. And reading it is 192. So I've still got quite a bit more volume on there if I need it. So this speaker, I think it's made a massive difference that it's coming through this vent here, because the speaker is literally just underneath my finger here. And the volume is very well out there, and I've got 50 more volume value increases if I need it as well. And the other thing about it is you can change this separate volume for the air horn, the bells, so there's lots of stuff here that I need to go through, but this video is just a quick on how to sort of install it and the generic sounds of this. So I'll leave you with one last sort of little run-in of it around manually, around the loop, and hopefully get some different sounds going.